How many of you have ever flown a plane? You know, I'm sure you traveled somewhere in your past couple of years. Can I see some hands raised up, please, if you've ever been on a plane? Everybody. Excellent. So you know what I'm talking about. Good. So every day we have 100,000 flights going back and forth between the world. At any point of time, you have 500,000 people up in the air. So we're talking about a very important industry in the world. We're talking about an industry that carries around 2 billion passengers a year. We're talking of an industry that makes around $600 billion of revenue for around 150 airlines. Let me ask you a question. Do you know how many countries we have in the world? Who knows how many countries we have in the world? Any number? Over 100. Okay, that's a good start. Okay, so as per the United Nations, we have 197 countries in the world. Do you know how many of those countries don't have an airport? No, how many don't have an airport? So actually there are only 5 countries that don't have an airport in the world. And all of those countries, surprisingly, are in Europe. So you've got Andorra, Liechtenstein, San Marino, Monaco, and Vatican City. Those are the 5 countries in the world that don't have an airport. So basically, you're talking 192 countries in the world have an airport. And guess what? Fujitsu delivers services to every single country in the world that has an airport. Because we actually are playing an important role in the airline industry, making sure that those 100,000 flights that are happening every day are not disrupted. And I'm sure all of you must have experienced a point of time where your flight was delayed for one reason or another. I happened to take 5 flights in the past 10 days. And I can tell you, it was interesting observing the different airlines and how they, operate, and especially how IT is an integral part of this process. So I was in Thailand with my wife, and we were flying internally from one destination to another, and surprise, surprise, the IT system was down for a particular airline, which I'm not going to mention the name, and we ended up having to check in manually, and I had to sit far away from my wife, and considering that it was our honeymoon, I was a little bit frustrated. So I can tell you, I might most probably not fly this airline again. And that was simply because, the IT system was down. What does Fujitsu do for you? As a global company, we give you the scale and knowledge and expertise all across the world. As you can see, we have 5 multilingual service desks supporting around 30 languages. We operate with many different data centers and global delivery centers across the world, bringing together all the knowledge and experience that we have, not only on a technology level, but also from a customer level, and also the necessary delivery capabilities and project management. And the reason I mentioned the airline industry is, again, those companies make money as long as the airplane is in the air. Once the airplane is not in the air, they're losing money. So the more the airplane is not in the air, the more money they lose. And when 4 of these companies decide to use Fujitsu as their global service provider, delivering 24/7 services for 10,000 plus units across 50 countries and more, we're talking here that 4 of the top 10 airlines in terms of revenue in their respective region have made a very important decision based on a thorough due diligence to come to that decision. What's our approach? So what we try to do is bring a very, very deep understanding to your requirement. So we bring our team from across the world. So let's say you're a airline company operating in the UAE, and you would like us to take care of your global services. So we will bring the different team members that did the Lufthansa, the Cathay Pacific, the Air France KLM, and we'll bring them into one room together with you to have an extensive workshop and not only learn from you about your requirements, but also bring to you the best practices and our lessons learned from these other industries to make sure that you and your business excel with this service that we will be bringing to you. Now, we are very transparent. We like to take things in a partnership model, so we believe in win-win situations. We also are very compliant. We understand the different complexities of different regulations and different countries being a global organization. And most importantly, we are an innovative company. And this is a very important point, okay? So we're talking about a company that has 177,000 employees. Guess what? For every 2 employees in the company, we have 1 registered patent. I mean, that's a very high ratio of creativity in this company. For those of you in the room who are more interested in service models and process flows, I would just like to give you a brief on how we do what we do. As a customer, sometimes you can have your own service desk or you would like to outsource it. We give you both options. We can provide the service desk on your behalf, or we can integrate our service delivery into your existing service desk. An incident is logged and it's then fed in to our Triali for services, which feeds into our global project management office. And I'll come to this in a moment, which then dispatches the right resource with the right spare part to fix your defected item. And I would like to mention that we're talking about multi-vendor support here. So I'm not only delivering services for Fujitsu, Global Project Management Office, a very interesting unit that we have that delivers services and manages the service incidents for you as a customer. As an executive, you would like to have the world in your hand. So you don't want to get into the details, but once something is wrong, you want to have real-time data. You want to know exactly what's going on in your organization and what's happening. And this is what the GPMO dashboard gives you. I'm showing you a snapshot here. So this is a live screen of a customer of ours that's having service calls across the world. And then you can see the green circles showing where we have the biggest volume of calls and what's the status and so on and so forth. And let me give you an example of how important this facility is, which is a unique feature of Fujitsu. So we had one of our very important Asian customers, and they had an office in one of the North African countries. And during the political instability of this particular country, the company decided to close that branch. And that branch had a couple of employees. They had one server, a couple of desktops, and they wanted to migrate the data from this server before they closed the office. And suddenly that server went down, and they had a service incident. And due to the fact that there was a political instability, this small country with not a very high SLA suddenly became very important to the CEO of that company. And he simply just clicked on the GPMO dashboard, went to that particular country, clicked on the service incident, and he knew exactly what's happening by real time. The name of the engineer, what's the status, what's going on, etc., etc. And he was able to contact immediately the responsible person to make sure that he expresses his personal interest in this. And our own CEO contacted him back, and we had this issue resolved in a very, very short time frame. The GPMO dashboard gives you extensive details of what's going on, and it also tells you what's happening and the history of each particular site, and you can actually zoom in to exactly the location that you're talking on and know how many items you have in that particular location. So it's a very, very nice feature that we offer to our customers when we're delivering global services to them. Enough said about the tools. I think by now, some of you are interested and say, okay, I kind of like what I'm hearing. But the problem is, I've always heard, when you're moving from a current provider to a new provider, the transition costs are always too high and you end up paying a lot of money and business continuity, etc., etc. Well, Fujitsu really understands what that means, and we have a very, very stringent approach to transition where we involve the transition director and the global service director from the bid stage to work together with you to ensure a very seamless transition period with the minimal costs and also mitigating all the risks that are associated. So we work together with you to make sure that your transition happens in a very seamless way. We predefine all the processes and the acceptance criteria, and that makes sure that not only are you moving to a better provider, you're also not paying a lot of money in the process. Governance is very important in any organization, especially when you grow and you have many different entities and you grow into different countries, and then you have to understand the different geographic, cultural, and political issues. And I mean, we're very knowledgeable of that because we're a global organization, and we operate in many countries across the world, and we make sure that we map our organization to your organization, and we have a very clear and defined structure to go along and meet your governance criteria. So from that perspective, there's a very clearly defined escalation procedure. There's a very clear understanding of your legal, political, and cultural parameters that have in your different organization. And we make sure that governance is a priority in that example. So that is also a point that is important in such big service operations. Now, okay, you're interested. You know that it won't cost you a lot for transition. So how are you going to go and convince your executive director or CEO or CFO that it's worth looking into it? We'll talk about money. Anybody who brings savings into the organization is the hero of the organization. Okay, and we want to make sure that you are able not only to bring additional business value by ensuring consistent service levels delivered all across your organization, but on top of that, you're saving money to the company. So we look at the different criteria that drives the costs, like service times, SLAs, the logistics, tax implementations. We even look about your billing models. And that's a very interesting point. Sometimes when you're operating in multi-geographies or multi-countries, okay, paying centrally from a specific country or paying locally or making a hybrid model in which every continent pays from a certain country will bring you certain tax savings. And we as Fujitsu, we're very flexible in our billing models, and we can work together with you to make sure that even in that area, you're able to save money. And that is very important because from my experience in the past 7 years in this organization, we're able to bring a savings of around 10 to 15% when you're moving from a traditional service model to our global managed maintenance model. And this is a very interesting figure that your CFO will definitely be happy to see in his bottom line. All of you in this room, you're having some kind of a data center, you're having very different brands in different areas, many different SLAs, a very hectic job trying to manage the processes, what's happening where, who do you need to talk to. Everybody blames everybody else when something goes wrong in such a heterogeneous environment. And as a customer, and when I say a customer, there is the procurement department, there is the end user, and there is the IT department. Those three make up the customer, and every one of them wants to have peace of mind. So you want to have a consolidated SLA, you want to have one clear reporting and KPIs to all your different IT equipment, you want to have cost savings, and most importantly, you need to have a single point of contact whenever something goes wrong. And I can tell you that we as Fujitsu are able to tailor a solution to your requirements. So within our different managed maintenance portfolio, there are different elements that we can apply to make sure we are matching your requirements and we're providing you with the solution that fits into your company. And on top of that, we will also bring you the best practices and what we have learned from working with similar customers in the same industry like yours. I've just mentioned in my presentation 10 good reasons why I think you should go with Fujitsu Managed Maintenance. And I'll just give you 3 that are my favorite. So A, you've got 4 of the top 10 airlines in terms of revenue in the world going with Fujitsu. I mean, that's no coincidence. Number two, you have the GPMO dashboard. It brings the world into your hands. And last but not least, you're achieving anything between 10 to 15% of cost saving. With that, I wish you a very good lunch. Thank you very much.
Brands. We all have our favourites. Whether it's a car, a store, a bank, or an airline, we trust our favourite brands to delight us. When we sit behind the wheel, walk through the door of the store, access our accounts online, board an aircraft, or even experience a service at our local town hall, we all know what makes the difference. But great brands work with great partners. Partners with resources and expertise to enable them to delight their customers around the world, every day of the year. Fujitsu is proud to be the partner of choice for many global brands. We service more than 4 million end users in over 175 countries. We operate more than 100 data centers. And our service desks resolve more than 50,000 incidents every day in 41 different languages. We have more than 31,000 service staff across the globe, empowered to be innovative and make decisions locally. In fact, we're one of the largest service businesses in the world. This is why our service business accounts for more than 50% of our global sales, and why enabling our clients to deliver impeccable service to their customers is vital to our business. It's why 11 leading motor vehicle manufacturers choose to be supported by Fujitsu. It's why we manage the largest self-checkout implementation in the world and provide services to many of the world's leading retailers. It's why leading retail banks around the world choose Fujitsu to support their ATM networks. It's why 370 million passengers a year fly on airlines supported by Fujitsu, and why we provide services to the governments of all the G8 countries. We are proud that our scale and infrastructure enables millions of people around the world to enjoy great service from their favourite brands. Let our global reach and world-class service enable your business to deliver its brand promise. Fujitsu, shaping tomorrow with you.